There's a philosophical principle called Occam's razor. It suggests that when you're faced with a mystery, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Human brains love this idea. We naturally seek the path of least resistance, looking for the straightforward answer to any confusing problem. But relying entirely on the simplest answer creates a dangerous blind spot. Sometimes the most obvious, logical conclusion is completely wrong. When a situation seems truly impossible, it rarely means the laws of physics have broken down. It usually just means you are missing a single critical piece of data, an unseen variable that, once discovered, brings a bizarre reality into focus. Consider a hospital patient who seemingly vanishes into thin air, a locked room crime scene where the victim appears to be shot, but there is no bullet, and a flight where a passenger's worst nightmare comes true over the ocean. At first glance, these events look like magic. But as we'll see, they are just equations waiting for their missing variables. In July 1993, a 69-year-old woman named Mildred Lancaster was admitted to the George W. Hubbard Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. She was suffering from stomach pain and severe bouts of confusion. As you can see, the Hubbard Hospital was a massive 11-story facility packed with countless rooms, closets, and corridors. To keep her safe, nurses monitored Mildred closely. But just 2 days into her stay, she vanished from her designated floor. Hospital staff searched every nearby supply closet and patient room, turning up empty-handed. The situation escalated rapidly, but the authorities soon arrived at a logical conclusion. The hospital's computer system showed Mildred had been officially discharged that morning. Furthermore, police search dogs picked up her scent at the front door and tracked it down the street, leading searchers to scour a full square mile of the surrounding city. The problem was, this data was false. Mildred had never been discharged. Her status was the result of a glitch in the hospital's computer system, and the dogs had simply tracked a phantom scent that pulled law enforcement miles away from her actual location. The physical reality was that Mildred never stepped outside. In her confused state, she reverted to her lifelong career as a housekeeper. Seeing the construction debris, she started cleaning it up, failed to notice a 5-foot trench, and fell in. She remained trapped and undetected in that hole for nearly 2 weeks. By trusting a corrupted digital record and an anomalous dog scent over the baseline reality that a sick, disoriented patient was still inside the building, the investigation lost its only chance to find her. In January 1964, Los Angeles police officers forced their way into a small, stiflingly hot apartment. Inside, they found 38-year-old Eugene Meadows decomposing on his couch. The apartment's front door had been locked from the inside, and all the windows were shut tight. The physical evidence immediately baffled the detectives. Eugene had a clear, distinct bullet hole in the back of his head, yet there was no weapon found anywhere in the neat apartment. Worse, there was no exit wound, and when the coroner examined the body, there was no bullet inside Eugene's skull. During the autopsy, the coroner noted a detail that didn't fit a shooting. Eugene's internal organs were a bright cherry red color. This specific physical signature is a telltale sign of lethal carbon monoxide poisoning. Investigators returned to the locked apartment and found the culprit. The vintage gas wall heater in Eugene's living room had been silently leaking toxic carbon monoxide directly into the sealed space. While the gas explained the death, it didn't account for the apparent wound in his head. That explanation required looking at a rare biological quirk, a calcium ridge. This section of bone at the back of his skull was significantly harder, yet more brittle. The toxic gas caused extreme swelling in his brain. As pressure built, it pushed outward until that brittle ridge violently shattered. There was no assassin and no gun. A toxic gas leak and a congenital bone abnormality accidentally manufactured the illusion of an impossible murder. On a spring afternoon in 1998, 64-year-old Klaus Schmidt was walking through the Dublin airport when he was hit with a wave of intense existential dread. As he looked out at his plane on the tarmac, he felt that boarding this flight was a terrible idea. He pushed past the panic and boarded the aircraft. But about an hour into the flight, high above the isolated waters of the Irish Sea, the tightness in his chest intensified. He was suffering a massive heart attack, miles away from the nearest hospital. It would be easy to assume Klaus had experienced a genuine psychic premonition. His intuition warned him of his own death on that specific aircraft, and his body confirmed it mid-flight. But the actual variable was statistical serendipity. Unbeknownst to Klaus, that exact commercial flight was carrying 40 top-tier heart specialists returning home from an international cardiology conference. When the flight attendant called out for a doctor, dozens of hands shot up. One of the physicians rushed over, carrying samples of an unreleased experimental heart drug in his carry-on luggage, and administered it directly in the passenger cabin. Klaus's dread had warned him to stay in the terminal, but ignoring that feeling was the requirement for his survival. If he had stayed on the ground, the heart attack would have happened anyway, but without 40 world-class cardiologists standing by to save him. In each of these cases, obvious logic pointed investigators in the wrong direction. A computer glitch masked a patient trapped inside a building, a broken heater masqueraded as a sniper, and a panic attack nearly stopped a man from reaching the exact doctors who would save his life.
We expect events to unfold neatly because we consume stories, but fiction has an obligation to be plausible. Reality has no obligation to make sense. The next time you encounter a scenario that seemingly defies logic, resist the urge to assume the supernatural. You aren't looking at magic, you just haven't found the unseen variable yet.